Hello everybody, good day for all. This is Physics of Creation. I am Istvan Locse and I'm back here with Stewart Swerdlow to continue our story, his story actually, and let's see what else magnificent experiences can we discover today. Welcome Stewart again.
Thank you, Istvan. I'm glad to be back.
Very well. So, Stewart, we finished last time with some of your experiences. Actually, we talked about the reptilians when you met some of them. But now let's continue that, as you mentioned in your book also, that you sometimes had a few missions to do for Montauk. And in one occasion you were sent to Israel and also in some other places, some other countries. But what is the most interesting is that a moment when you have been taken, let's say like that, to an underground tunnel, let's say it a hyperspace tunnel. Can you expand a little bit about that? What happened, or describe the situation a little bit?
Yeah. First, people need to understand that underneath the Earth, between the inner and the outer mantle of the Earth, there is a vast travel system, a network of tunnels with a transportation device that was discovered by the American government in the 1930s. And ever since then, they have been recreating it, building it, expanding it. And this tunnel has kind of a green glow around it. It's always light. There's no darkness in the tunnel. The light seems to come from the walls as if the walls are glowing. And of course, I didn't understand then what that was about, but I know now that these tunnels are coated with a certain type of bacteria that emit light, very much like deep under the ocean there are fish that have a glow to them. Well, there are these bacteria that live in the earth that have this green glow, and they constantly expand and multiply so that you can literally paint them on a wall and the wall will continue to glow forever.
Wow.
And these were actually created by the Atlanteans hundreds of thousands of years ago, and they completely cover the earth. They go under the oceans, under mountains, North Pole, South Pole, they're everywhere. And so the government had opened up these tunnels when they were discovered in the 1930s, and they've used them as a transportation system ever since. In these tunnels, there is a vehicle that kind of looks pointed at both ends, but kind of rounded in the middle. And you enter into this vehicle, and it starts to move, but then at a certain point, it reaches a speed where it goes into a hyperspace speed. So, for example, you can travel between Los Angeles and New York in a matter of moments, or maybe a few minutes. It's very much like a wormhole, but in a directed tube. And that's basically what these things are. In the United States, the government has stations underneath many locations, almost every state, where these tubes exist. And bases are built above them so that they can travel from base to base using this transport system secretly underground.
Oh, right.
So that's one of the transportation modes.
Mm-hmm. And how did you get there? Let's say like that.
Well, Montauk base was built on the eastern end of Long Island, and I think I mentioned in the first conversation that it opened up into these caverns, and one of these tube systems was connected. In fact, that particular tube system went across the south shore of Long Island all the way into New York City, where there was a a central distribution area that's spread out to different locations, and even into what would be under the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean now. So Montauk was built connected to one of these tunnel systems.
All right. So you went to Israel through one of these tunnels.
Yes, but I also traveled by airplane on other occasions.
All right, of course. And you mentioned in your book, only just to make a kind of small information, that during your travels, also in South Africa, you were continuously having extraterrestrial experiences in bad dreams. Let's say you mentioned also in astral plane, different kind of connections, different kind of experiences. Again, you were lying on some tables, some kind of strapped down, right? And they were doing different kind of experiments with you, right? So is there any of these the most important, what you think that people should know, something it worth to mention?
Well, it depended on the situation. Sometimes they were examining an implant. Sometimes they were doing genetic experimentation or surgeries. Sometimes they were simply downloading energy or inputting energy. For example, mind control and programming would be entered in this way. Sometimes they would just keep you there because if you were considered a problem for a particular incident, they would put you into a drug-induced state and leave you on a table like that, or even in a cage at some point. Sometimes, quite honestly, they would beat us, they would hurt us, and we would be afterwards placed on these tables to recuperate from that.
All right.
So there's many different reasons why. Yeah.
All right. Well, actually, I recommend everybody to read the book, because here are so many interesting experiences and so many dates and so many information that we cannot really touch everything. But if you agree, there is something that you mentioned in one point. You were taken again outside in this way, and you met a child of yours, right?
Yes.
Can you...
Actually, they were... Yeah, I was used a lot in the Montauk project for genetic experimentation. They were very interested because of the alien technology and alien ideas that they were given to mix human genetics with the alien genetics, animal, insect, every combination that you can think of, in order to create a being who can operate in various environments without the need of equipment. Mm-hmm. And so I was one of the people that was used for the, let's say, genetic donations, but they were not donations, they were extractions for this purpose. And sometimes they would create a being, a child that they figured would be valuable for certain purposes known only to them. And it was important for interaction of at least one of the parents of that child to converse with it, to talk to the child, understand the energy, and even give energy to that child. Right. And this occurred on several occasions.
And you mentioned that in a particular occasion, they just took you up there, and someone entered the room with a baby and gave it to you to hold it. How was it?
It's a very strange feeling because, especially, I was very young at the time, and there's a feeling of, I guess you can say, love that you have for this creation, and I hesitate calling it an actual child now because it wasn't really a child. I mean, I suppose it was a child, but not human child. It had a genetic mix. And so sometimes I would see, well, that's a good question. Sometimes they would mix with they would mix with the alien genetics. Sometimes they would mix with some species. I had no idea what it was. Sometimes the child had a human head, but not a human body. Oh. They were in the process. This particular alien group was and is in the process of creating hybrids that they hope will replace humanity.
Oh.
Or create what they call a vehicle or containers. Actually, they call it containers, which is just the body. And then they place their own soul essence into that body. So in effect, it's almost like a biological robot.
So you actually, I mean, this particular baby, let's say like that, do not have a soul, consciousness, let's say like that?
Well, once it's alive, yes, it can't live without that. But, for example, I would see containers, I don't know what you can call them, incubators, containers filled with different infants, fetuses that were being grown from these genetic experiments, and the ones that they would consider to be viable for their use, they would grow to a larger proportion, and then before disconnecting from the machines, they would enter the soul personality into it so that it could survive independently.
But how do they do that? How can they manage a soul personality?
They have electromagnetic technology that can actually extract a soul personality from one body and place it into another.
Wow, that's amazing, let's say like that, because as humans we think that, well, my body has a soul, or a soul which has a body, maybe, but we never can, up to today, never could understand how soul can, for example, reincarnate. How does it happen, for example? So people that do not believe in reincarnation, actually this would be a kind of reincarnation, right?
You can look at it that way, but in effect it was an artificial birthing process using artificial womb and a way of installing a soul into this body. In a way, this alien group is acting as if it was their own god and creating their own little universe, in that way. But we also need to understand that the human race on the Earth is an artificial race anyway. We are a combination of mammalian and reptilian genetics, which should not exist naturally. It was artificially created that way. And so we ourselves are artificial, and that's why when humans or abductees tell these aliens that they have no right to do this, the aliens say we have every right because we are ones that created you. So to them, they expect us to look upon them as as our creator.
Yeah, gods, right? Let's say like that. Maybe.
Well, it's it's no different than what we see now on Earth, where people use artificial means to become pregnant, and and older women go through hormonal therapies to have babies again, even when they're in their 50s and even 60s, which is done in Europe a lot. It's not much different. That technology came from this alien group.
All right then. Very well. Now let's continue, if you agree, with the end of Montauk in '83, and what happened next. How could you manage to stand up?
Oh, I didn't. You know, it was it was like being unplugged from electricity. That's the only way I can describe it. After so many years of being used and controlled that way, that when it suddenly crashed on August 12th, 1983, I felt like I was literally unplugged from the wall socket of electricity. I couldn't function, really. I had no reference to society. I found it very difficult to do the most simple things that people take for granted. I had difficulty to, just getting through the day, making food, putting fuel in a vehicle. Simple things was a very major project for me. I actually felt like I was literally an alien in a strange world where nothing made sense to me and I had no idea what to do. I didn't know how people think. I didn't know what the culture was. Everything was alien to me. And so it took a very, very long time for me to adjust. I don't know if I am still really adjusted. I think a long time ago I gave up trying to fit in because I don't. And I am different than a typical person on this planet. And also remember that because of those experiments, I was physically blind. I could only see
you
mentally.
mentioned that.
Yeah, and so it's a very different type of life.
And how did Montauk fall?
Well, after 13 years, I suppose they became irresponsible or not careful with what they were doing. The lead psychic in the project, who was Duncan Cameron, was used on the Montauk chair, which was a Series A technology, which I've explained. And usually, when that person is in a chair, or anyone is in that chair, they're monitored from a control room. All their life functions, brain functions, etc. On this particular day, there was a lot of infighting going on with the people in control, people in charge of the project. There were problems with direction on where to go with the project. And so Duncan was on the chair. He was finished with his work, and he fell asleep. And they left him, and the equipment was still on. And during that time period, he had a nightmare. And the nightmare was about an entity that was from another dimension. The computer automatically picks up those brain waves in that pattern and connects from the other dimension into the physical one. And so in effect, because of Duncan's nightmare, this entity was pulled into the Montauk project and manifested.
Wow.
And it started to create destruction. And then when the scientists realized what happened and they tried to turn the equipment off, the equipment wouldn't go off because the entity was pulling from its own dimension into this one and maintaining the equipment and maintaining its existence. So it was a big problem.
What kind of entity?
It was, if you can think of it like a gigantic electromagnetic Bigfoot. That's the only way I can describe it. It was like that, but like almost 3 meters tall and very, very violent and aggressive.
Kind of monster, kind of It has
Yes.
form, not only an
Yes.
energetic one. You mean it really had a form, had a morphologically speaking.
Yes, I cannot say it was completely physical because it was more energetic. You could see the outline of it. It made verbal sounds. You could hear it. You could see it, but you could not do anything with it.
How did you manage to fight him back, or?
I didn't. I did not do anything.
Not you. In plural.
Yeah. The scientists, after a bit of time, realized that they had to destroy the equipment so that this creature would have no source of connection to its origin. So they literally took axes and fire extinguishers and everything they could think of and dismantled and destroyed the equipment. They just basically destroyed it. And at first it slowed down the creature, and then eventually the creature started to stop and started to fade, and it was kind of frozen in place. So my opinion is that there was an imprint left of this creature in our environment, even though it wasn't actually there. It was like an energetic imprint, like a footprint that remained energetically. Right. And supposedly this lasted for a number of years. The imprint took many years to fade out.
Oh.
And they closed the base. They closed the base down.
So it destroyed the base, actually.
Yes, or you can say because of it, the authorities in the base had to dismantle everything and destroy it, yeah.
All right, then. All right. I saw the movie Montauk Chronicles, and at the end appears a person with a mask. He did not want to share his identity, and he actually told something that if you would search now in the underground, in that base, you might find some human bones, maybe lots, or else.
Between you and I've discussed this with the producer, I don't believe that person. I think that he was sent in by the government to cause a problem for the film.
All right.
And
you want me to...
also, I can tell you, he's also caused issues with the producer subsequently, so I don't believe anything he said.
All right then. Good. Now, okay, you got out from there. You have been unplugged, as you say. And, okay, what happened? You married, you had kids, but your life wasn't going well, neither. But one day you really meet Preston, Duncan, and somebody else, if I remember well.
Al Bielek.
Yes, Al Bielek. And what did they manage to do with you? I mean, to repair, quote unquote.
Okay, that's a big question.
Okay.
When I met Preston first. Well, let's say I met him again after many years. I believe I met him again in 1991, so it was 8 years after the end of the project. And Preston was very interested in meeting survivors, people who survived, because there were not many. And as I mentioned, I think once before, the ones who did survive were not walking around in public. They were in mental institutions, prisons, etc. Or some of them were drug addicts, etc. I myself became an alcoholic after that experience, because it was the only way I could deal with my daily life. because of the constant nightmares and memories and physical issues, etc. It was a very difficult time. And so Preston, interested in knowing how I survived and knowing what information I still had within me, used deprogramming techniques to get information from
Wilhelm
me.
Reich.
Yes. Now I must say and caution, in the United States and in the EU, those techniques are illegal.
All right.
So it's very difficult to discuss them. And what's interesting is that in the EU and in the United States, they claim that mind control and programming don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's true, why are Wilhelm Reich procedures illegal for something that doesn't exist?
Of course.
Curiosity, isn't
Yeah,
it?
of course.
Yes. Yes. And so, and here's a little difficult issue for me to discuss, because during these procedures, in the aftermath, I would get very ill. My body temperature would drop to very low temperature. I had very poor circulation. I was basically near death after each session.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how he left me. And so it seemed to me that he was more interested in the information than he was in my own welfare.
Mm-hmm.
So that was disturbing
Yeah.
to me. And yet, at the time, I was not happy with life, and so a part of me didn't really care if I died or not. In fact, I looked at death as a great release from all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I wished it would happen. And
Right.
as you know from the book, and from the book, you know, I tried to commit suicide 3 times.
Yeah.
And yet it was Preston and Duncan and Al Bielek who saved me on one of those times.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, when you tried to get some pills and alcohol, and they found you
I did.
in the kitchen.
I don't know how they even entered into my house. I
Yeah.
don't even know how, but they did.
Mm-hmm. Well, in these sessions they did to you, these techniques, you mention in your book, if you want to talk about a little, that some entities took control of your body, and they talked to Preston, to Duncan, and they also called them in a very interesting way, as a, how you say that, pressed on, for example, for Preston, pressed on, and Duncan, right? They call that. So can you explain a little bit, what did they tell them?
Well, you have to remember that when that happened, I wasn't really present because
Yeah.
I was pushed out of my body.
Yeah.
And so I can't remember all of the details of what happened. I only know what they told me after.
Yes, of course.
But these entities that entered were part of the Montauk project, and they were not happy with the revelation of any more information, and they were upset with Duncan and Al and Preston for trying to get this information. Yes, and sometimes, in fact, a couple of times, while Duncan was present during these sessions, Duncan would go into some strange altar, and that he would just leave, and we could never find him. And I remember one time, middle of the night, we had to go searching for Duncan in the darkness along the roads to see where he was, because he vanished. And sometimes we would find him many, many kilometers away, walking on the road in the dark. And it was very fascinating how he would get there so quickly, so far away, just by walking.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But you do not mention this in your book. That's interesting.
No, there are some things. Yeah, there are some things I did not. I don't know if I mentioned to you about the time we were taken to a university nearby, where a major football coach was in charge, and we watched a movie about Mars. And Duncan went into a catatonic state, and he just went straight like steel and fell. And we had to move him someplace and work on him to bring him back. I don't know if that's in the... I can't remember if that's in the book.
No, neither.
But
No, it's not. It's not. Good. But do you want to say something about Jangiko? Or not?
Yes, a very negative entity, Draco, reptilian, who would seek to destroy all the survivors, including myself, and including even Preston and Duncan.
In that session, in one of their sessions.
Yes.
Yes.
And afterwards. Thank goodness I don't have any connection to that anymore.
All right.
But in those days, it was a very difficult time.
But after that, after Jangiko appeared several times, there was another one who pulled out Jangiko from you, or out of you, and came another one. If I remember well. Let me check.
Mishka, I believe.
Mishka, yeah, of course. Yeah, that's it.
These beings from Sirius A were the ones who provided the technology for Montauk Project and other projects that the U.S. government created. And these beings from Sirius A, they like to give the impression that they are benevolent and generous and kind, but they have their own agenda, and they like to use various civilizations for their own purposes, and Montauk was one of them, because the Syrians would give the reptilians technology, but only at a certain level, so that the Syrians would always have much better technology. And this was very disturbing to the reptilians. And the reptilians thought that the Syrians were giving the humans better technology. And so there was this constant battle, sabotage.
Between them.
Sorry?
Between
all of them, yeah. Yes, between all of them. And that's the thing. There was no way you can trust anyone. No matter what they told you, no matter what they gave you, you never could trust it. And that's why when the Syrians or the reptilians gave the scientists at Montauk coordinates for time travel or for space travel, they didn't trust them. And so they would take expendable people and test it to see if it was true.
Yeah.
And many times was not true. See,
they just
so we would send somebody
in outer space.
So we would send someone. Yes. Or they would wind up in an ocean or in deep space or in the middle of a star, or that would be the end of them. Yes, happened many times.
Interesting. Cool. So this Syrian also took control of your body and talked to Preston and explained something that what they did. For example, Syrians, as you mentioned, constructed underground bases on Mars many thousands of years ago, and and these days these underground bases actually are used by who? By reptilians or by
Humans.
them?
All of them. Reptilian, greys, humans. There's even the remains of the Martian civilization.
All right.
So Mars is kind of like a refugee center.
All right.
Like that.
All right then. Good. So after all this, you mentioned also that your life was going pretty bad. You had problems with your family. You have been in jail for something you did for your government, actually, as you mentioned, right? But we don't get in this because it's all of this is in the book. I recommend the book Montauk, The Alien Connection, to everybody to read it, to get much more information, much details. So I think that as you explained that later, you managed to, let's say like that, to divorce, right, from your actual wife. And later you met Janet. And after that, everything changed. Let's say like that. Kind of your life began to settle, right, or something, to get something better. And you started to do a work to offer deprogramming work and services for other people, inclusively during your days in the prison, excuse me, and later also in some institutions with mental health.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mentally handicapped people.
Yeah. And after that, kind of that you are continuing to do that somehow. And you also discovered that technology you work on in radionics, right? And I would like to tell us something. I would like you to tell us a little bit about this technology, or what do you do today to help others?
Well, I do a lot of things. Radionics is only a small part of what I do. And basically radionics is a supplement or an addition to what you can do with your own mind. Mm-hmm. So it's a machine that helps your mind to focus and gives you freedom to do other things while this machine is doing what you have asked it to do. And by the way, in the United States, it's also illegal to call the radionics a device. You must call it either box or a machine. And you must also say that it is only for entertainment purposes.
All right.
So I don't know what the EU law is, but that's how it is in US. And so I basically teach alternative health techniques and nutrition, exercise mentally and physically, release work to remove the mind patterns that create negative experiences in your life. I teach a way to grow up the child within so that you can deal with situations from a higher perspective. I also teach about archetype symbols, how to read the language of hyperspace and use it. Higher frequencies that exist beyond the physical that we can access and use for making our life better. And dream analysis, etc. Many things. Alternative healing techniques.
Thanks to your
therapy,
abilities.
Sorry?
Thanks to your abilities also.
Well, and from what I learned from those 13 years, as well as my own research afterwards, yes.
All right then. All right. Well, I'm asking these things because just to remember the people that you will come to Spain, and actually you will do a session. I mean, tell us a little bit what do you do usually in these seminars? What can they find?
Yeah, of course, each seminar can be different.
All right.
When I first come to a place, I teach the basics: how to balance the left and right hemisphere of the brain, how to work with the energy system of the body, proper breathing techniques, how to open the mind and do release work, basics. Then I would go into, let's say, the true human history on this planet and in this galaxy, what alien agendas there are. I also teach about programming and mind control, what they are, how they put it in, and how you can deprogram from this.
Right.
There's a lot of work on that.
Yeah.
I also teach about oversoul work and God mind and how to become aware of your connection to that. I teach about, again, the dream analysis and how to interpret what those dreams actually mean. They're a status report of your life.
Great.
I teach how to fix the organs. All these things I teach in my seminars. How to use name analysis, etc. Yeah.
Good. Well, Stewart, I think that we can stop here with the Montauk experiences, and next session we would start with the history, the true history. But I would like to make it, let's say like that, chronologically, to put it in some order. Okay, what happened before, next, okay, and of course parallel events, if you can remember, of course. Now, if you agree, let's answer some questions, because I got a lot, but I selected the most, the better ones. Okay, so for example, you mentioned in the last session that you had a constant vision about information, energetic information, the coming to you, and that was constant, that was always happening. And so that constant vision doesn't drive you crazy. Could be reason to schizophrenia, for example. How can you control it?
Okay. That is a result of Montauk project.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that they changed my brain, my mind, so that it was on all the time, not physically, but energetically. So that now, even if I close my eyes, I can still see energy, I get input. That's why I don't sleep very well at night. I can't sleep because it's all the same. Day, sleep, night, it's all one thing to me. I had to learn over many years how to not pay attention. For example, and I don't know if I've told this story, I was walking on a street in Los Angeles, and someone brushed by my arm, and instantly I saw an image of that person being murdered. So what do? Do I go over and say, "Excuse me, I saw that you're going to be murdered"? Then they think I'm the murderer, right? So you have to be careful. So what can you do? The only thing I could do is use my energy to go to Oversoul, to connect to the Oversoul of that person mentally and tell them, and then they do what they wish with that information. When I stay in a violet protection, which I teach the protection techniques as well, this is a filter of the energy coming in. It blocks the ELF in the microwave.
All right.
And so we must learn to keep our boundaries, to keep boundaries energetically, so that we're not constantly bombarded by such things.
Just what you said right now I understand something. What is happening to me? I will explain it one day, okay, later. Good. Thank you. Another one. Okay, you said that some aliens were interested in great teachers and liaisons. And can we tell that some of Earth's spiritual teachers were prepared by them, as Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, etc.?
Well, I have to state, at the risk of maybe insulting some listeners, but all religion is a mind control. All.
I agree.
And I wrote in a couple of my books that Christ was a creation, an alien creation. It was nothing to do with Savior. It was about mind control and programming certain groups of people on the earth. Same thing with Muhammad. Muhammad was created by Catholic Church in order to create a certain element. It's a very long story. So it's a big question, and you have to look at each individual. And even the ones that say, yes, I was trained to be an ambassador or this, I know now that all of these alien groups have an agenda, even with me. And so that's why I don't pay attention to them anymore. You see, people think it's such an honor to be an ambassador, to be a liaison, but really means you are a puppet being used by that group. See? So you have to be your own ambassador, do your own work.
Of course. But let's say Jesus really had very positive messages for humankind. That we could say that. Some very good messages.
Yes, that's part of the disinformation. What people need to read in the Bible, and this is that they don't promote this. When Jesus first appeared, he said, "I come with a sword, not to make peace." That was one of the first things he said. People don't remember that part. And we must also remember, and I have a seminar this September which I will be explaining, that he worked for the Roman government. He was a liaison to Emperor Tiberius. So there's a lot about Christ figure that people don't know, and that the church has kept quiet. And as far as saying certain things and being right, my grandmother used to say, even a stopped clock is correct twice per day.
Yeah.
So yes, you can find truth in anything. Even Hitler said true things, But then you look at what's behind all of that.
All right. Now, another question is that between the alien races happens the same as in human race, for example? I mean, dualism in terms of some individuals are eager for knowledge and others are not. Others are seeing football, quote unquote, ignorance and doesn't care for anything, for example.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Let's see. The question is that if exists between some alien races, if exists individuals who doesn't care for anything, as well as in between the people, between the human race. I mean that ignorance and seeing football, and just doesn't care, and other people eager for knowledge and for expansion. Is there any possibility for that?
Yes, of course. There's all different kinds of mind patterns. Depends on the person's experience, and also depends on the level of programming that the person have.
But I mean, between the aliens.
How they feel about such things?
No. if there is any individual between the aliens who does the same thing that humans.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes. Because a being comes from another world, ultimately we have the same source. We all come from one God mind, yes?
Yeah.
And so by that definition, all beings have ultimately foundational mind patterns that are the same. Now, how you express those mind patterns, how you apply them, that makes the difference. So yes, even in the reptilian society, the Draco, aggressive warrior, yes, even among them there are those who don't want that. That there's peaceful.
So you think that might be some individuals that really could, let's say like that, love people, love humans?
Of course, there has to be, of course. There's everything exists, everything.
Do you think
now
that...
The question is, how much power do they have to manifest this?
Yeah, of course. Good. Yeah, it's exactly this question. Is that possible that there could be some individuals that really love humans even if his race doesn't?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Absolutely. But I will tell you something. People ask me, well, where are the benevolent ones that are supposed to save us? And the answer is they're not here. Because the benevolent one knows that the race must learn by itself. If you teach or impose a condition, then that civilization doesn't learn anything.
Yeah.
So
it's not
the human
unconditional.
race has to. Yes, human race must learn on its own.
Of course. Okay, a few questions more only. It says, when the aliens or Draco manipulated the original Lyrian DNA, why didn't they wipe our consciousness? Absolutely. Why don't leave us consciousless? So just simply make animals. Why did they permit us to have a consciousness?
We are consciousness. You can't not have it.
Yeah, but I mean,
even a rock
like
has
animals.
Consciousness.
Yes, of course, but also consciousness.
There are many races that consider humans to be animals. There are races that consider humans to be like bacteria. So it's a matter of perspective, And humans on this planet were basically created to be slaves. And so there's a limited awareness, but there's a good potential. It can change.
Yes. All right. Good. Thank you. Then it says, what can we do in case of paralysis? Because you mentioned sometimes that you find yourself paralyzed when some entities came. Is there any technique or something to do something against the paralysis?
Yes. Immediately put yourself in violet color and use this brown merger symbol at your pineal gland. And that will stop the paralysis.
Just to project it, to think about it?
Create it. Visualize at the pineal gland.
Yeah, visualize.
Yeah. And that will stop. And at least use the color violet around, like an amethyst color, and that immediately blocks that energy of paralysis.
All right, that's good. Thank you. And the last one says that in the last session you mentioned that you would like to see someone awaken, because you say that in the world you hardly can see anyone awaken. So who would be for you an awakened person?
You mean that I know now, that I can see now?
No. How would be a person, an awakened person? How would be
a person who knows the truth of what the governments are doing, who knows the truth about society and religion and education and does not participate in this. That doesn't mean that they are isolated. That doesn't mean they go live on a mountain someplace, because every place on the earth is affected. It means they are aware, they know their audience, they know what they can say and to whom, and they connect with each other to create a new community, almost like a virus within the system, to change things. That is an aware person.
But then,
like
Stewart.
You.
All right, but then, Stewart. Thank you. Really, there are many. If so, there are many. If so,
there are 8 billion people on this planet. How many would you say are aware?
Maybe 100,000.
Even so, what's the percent? It's not even a 0.1.
Yeah. All right.
That's the problem.
Yeah. No problem.
That's what I mean.
What you and I are doing is to get more people awakened, right? So that is really actually our job to do here. So, well.
I feel an obligation, Istvan. I feel obligation because of what happened in Montauk project, because of what I participated in. I feel an obligation to fix that.
All right. Well, Stewart, this is all for today. And so thank you very much again for your work and to participate. And see you next time. See you the next session, next week actually. And again, to remember the people, please, very soon we will get the exact dates for your visit in Spain, and we will start to make the registering. And I will ask you or Janet to make a little resume about what will you talk, okay, here in Spain in your seminar, okay, to be able to make program, okay, program, not mental program. Good.
A schedule.
Okay, a schedule. That's good. A schedule. Yes. Very well then.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to that.
Good. I don't know if
I
you...
look forward to...
Go ahead.
I look forward to... I have a very special place in my heart for Latin people in Spain and South America, Central America. I love these places. And I've been to them many times, and I look forward to doing work for these people as well.
All right. We are looking forward to get you to Argentina and also in Chile and in other countries also. Maybe Mexico, Colombia, or who knows, other.
Who knows? Well, I tell you, I always have written that Buenos Aires is one of my favorite cities in the world.
Yeah. Good. Well, that's all, people. Thank you for watching, and thank again Stewart, and let's continue next time. Okay.
Thank you, Istvan. I look forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks again. A big hug to everybody. Bye.
Bye for now.